Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose with the Examiner. With us today, Nixon of Framing Hanley. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. As long as you and I have been chatting, it seems weird. This is the first time we've actually talked about Framing Hanley. It's sort of long overdue.
Yeah, really, no doubt.
So you guys are currently on a Midwest off day in the midst of your tour. How's it going so far?
Good, man. We just woke up about an hour ago and made the journey to get our morning, or I don't know if it's fair to call it morning, day coffee and something to eat. And, enjoy a day off in South Bend, Indiana today. Ready for a rock show tomorrow night.
All right. Well, and you guys did a few shows with 3 Days Grace. You're doing a couple with Devour the Day, and then on and on. How are fans responding to the new tracks live, and how many of the new songs are they getting to hear at this point?
It's been awesome. When you work on an album for as long as we worked on this one, and especially when you've been touring in support of 2 other albums for, 7 years, you want to play as the artist a lot of the new tracks. You're excited to play that. And, so we were worried at first maybe we were playing too much new stuff, but the response so far has been pretty overwhelming. It's been awesome to see all the people that are coming out to the show for the most part already, singing along with even the new songs. So I think our set's about half and half from the first 2 albums and from the amount of songs that we're playing from this new album.
Nice. And as you just alluded to, that your 3rd album is finally here, and it was a long, hard road to get here, about 4 years. Can you share a bit about the roller coaster ride with us?
Yeah, man, it was, ultimately we felt like we were trying to talk ourselves into liking what we had as an album for, over a period of time, and it just, it reached a point where we thought that we needed to go back to the drawing board on a few songs and maybe even bring some new ideas to the table until we had the album that we knew was unquestionably the album that we were, looking to record for being our 3rd album. And, we never spent this long an album, and I can tell you we never will again, but I wouldn't trade a second of the time that we spent on it as long as it took, just because, the end result was exactly what we were looking for.
Right, and of course in the midst of all that, there was the label, you left the one label, there was that time on your own, and now you're with Imagine and everything, but that adds to sort of the aggravation and frustration as you're going along as well.
That was, the whole journey started actually with us parting ways with our former label, and then, that set into kind of led to the events of, what happened over the next 3 years with us, the way we went about funding the album, and again, just going back to the drawing board as many times as we did with some of these songs until we had it right, and then Imagine came on board. So, a lot of people think that everything happens for a reason. I can't say that I've ever been one of those people, but it's pretty awesome, the end result. I wouldn't trade a second of the time we spent on it.
Right, and once again, nice segue, because you turned to your fans and ran a successful Kickstarter campaign to fund the album. I understand you guys only asked for like $1 each from each fan. You figured that would cover it. You have to be pretty gratified with the results.
Yeah, we went above and beyond what we were expecting. We were, again, with us not having a label at the beginning of this journey, we didn't know, realistically if we were going to be able to put out a 3rd album, and at the time Kickstarter wasn't the phenomenon that it is right now. So as far as crowdfunding, we didn't necessarily feel too great about doing that. But we thought, if we made the bird cool enough, something that we as fans of other bands would be interested in being involved with, maybe these people would want to be involved with something that would, be a moment that we're going to remember, obviously, for the rest of our lives, because there would be no 3rd album if it wasn't for this Kickstarter. So that being said, we didn't expect it to go over and be the success that it was. And, we tell our fans every night, on stage that the only reason we are still here in 2014 is because of them. And, I don't think we could ever thank them enough.
Absolutely. And I would imagine that making the record with their money sort of adds greater weight and responsibility.
Yeah. See, that's something you don't really think about in the, in the beginning of it, because it's not a label involved this time, but it adds, you're right, more of a weight, knowing that the people that funded this are your fans and that they paid for it before they ever heard a song. So it's like, wow, we really have to deliver with this album, and ultimately that led to the, that was another reason why I felt like we wanted to make sure, I don't want to say perfectionist, I think this term is overused, and our album is by no means a perfect album, but it's a pretty damn good rock record and something that we're proud of.
Well, to my ear, the Sum of Who We Are certainly contains much of the trademark Framing Hanley sound that everybody's familiar with, but it's certainly a notable evolution for the band as well. I'm sure you'd agree. The songwriting
Thank you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you'd agree the songwriting is some of your best so far.
Yeah, I think any artist is shortchanging themselves and, certainly their fans if they feel like they're, not evolving with every album. And I've always said that that'll be the day when we no longer do this. The bands that we look up to and, that we kind of idolize are the bands that do evolve with every album, that bring something new to the table with every album, that seem like they're growing with every album. And ultimately, that's our goal. And, it feels good to feel like we've done that from album to album. And, this one, I feel like we certainly took a giant leap compared to where we were on A Films to Burn. And, that kind of raises the bar, I guess, for what we've got to do for album 4. But, right now, we're going to enjoy playing this album live.
Well, it's often been said that the third album, sort of like sports stars with the third year, is where a band finally finds its... Yeah, 3, yeah. It's where the band finally finds its signature and comes into its own. Would you agree that fits Framing Hanley?
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know that we ever are in the business of, getting comfortable within our own music. I think that's the one thing to push yourself as an artist is to, kind of try to always think outside the box and bring something new to the table, and just be aware of the albums you're putting out. We certainly don't want to be a band that is putting out an album that sounds the same, that sounds like the Sum of Who We Are, for that matter, after this one. So to say that we found our sound, I think there are elements of our sound that's always going to sound like Framing Hanley, but I certainly hope that we continue to add to that with every CD we put out.
Right. Sort of, as Jeff Tate from Queensryche once said to me, sort of creating the signature, if you will, which is a little bit different than the sound, because the sound's definitely still there, but you guys are sort of defining who you are at this point. Yeah,
and I think that even could be attributed to, just the different types of music that we listen to, and different stuff that we get into as far as what we're listening to in an album cycle or when it comes to writing for the album. So, yeah, we try to stay on our toes and, certainly add something different to the recipe every time.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that you guys did that was different this time, you used multiple producers on this record, including Rick Beato. Mm-hmm. Why the choice to go that direction?
Some of the songs that, we just wanted to see what it would, for one, again, that goes back to kind of going beyond being comfortable,
right.
Not doing the same routine. We've done every album with Brett Hessler, and we certainly did a number of my two very favorite songs on this album we did with Brett. But, that was something that we were used to, and we wanted to add something new to the table, and thought the best way to do that was by, experimenting with a few different guys. And, Rick was a guy that was, highly recommended to us. Jason Ryle was a guy that we toured with when he was in Red, and we were friends with those guys. So as soon as I heard that he was producing, we wanted to jump on board and do something with him. Eric Bass from Shinedown, he was, a guy that we're friends with, that he had time off on the road, and we wanted to see, what it'd be like to do a song with him. So, it was the first chance for us to do something like this, especially with how long we spent on this album. So we took advantage of the opportunity, and I think that is why, we are so happy with this album, is because there isn't this, I don't want to say consistency, but there's not this, every song doesn't sound exactly the same from song to song, and that's something that I enjoy about this album.
Right. The flip side of that, I have to, were you concerned at all that having so many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, might hurt the album's continuity?
No, because, we had a handful of songs that didn't make the cut for that reason, We knew we didn't have just the number of songs to make a CD, whether it was, that mean excluding one of the producers or not. We certainly were looking only to make an album that, there was continuity with, and that it sounded like a solid album. And we did that. I feel, there were some songs that we did with some guys that didn't make the cut. So, that was something that we kept in mind when we were doing the track listing.
Right, and it flows very well from track to track, which a lot of people don't put much thought into, and you guys did a phenomenal job with that. Yeah,
there's some great songs, man, that we didn't put on there for that reason. That it just, in the realm of an entire album, just didn't make sense. The song that we gave away for free, Walt and the Wolves, a few months before the album came out, a lot of fans were upset that wasn't on the CD, but, it just, like you said, in the scope of making an album that there's continuity with, it was one that was kind of hard to make fit
And now Luke McDuffie stepped down in 2013. Jonathan Stoy has been in the fold for a while, at least on tour anyway. Who do we have to thank for the bass work on the record?
Luke did the majority of the album. The two songs that we did with Eric Bass, Criminal and Twisted Halos, he tracked bass on, and that was just, he plays bass in China, so it was only natural.
Right.
We didn't have a bass player at the time, so he just tracked bass since he was producing the album.
Well, how cool is that?
But, Luke did everything else on the CD.
Nice.
All the other basses.
And let's talk about a few of the songs. Twisted Halos is my current favorite on the record. Of course, it changes frequently, but I understand Castaway, the last song on the record, has special resonance for you.
Yeah, that was a special song. Again, like some months of the 2.5-year process were easier than others, and during some of those months, I think we were wondering if we were ever going to please ourselves enough to release this album. We just we asked ourselves if we had played our last show. We went through all of that, and I think there was a moment where we had a wake up call, and I was like, there are a group of people out there that are supporting us, in our dreams and ambitions that we had when we started this, of doing this, as a career. We never imagined we'd reach the levels that it did reach, and to know that there were people still out there patiently waiting for an album. We knew that we had to release something, and that was a special thing to know that those people were still out there after 2 years gone, and that's what that song is about, really, is, as long as they're out there, as long as we feel like, again, that we're continuing to evolve as a band, and as long as those people out there supporting it and interested in hearing what the songs that we're writing, we'll continue doing this, and we'll go down with this ship. And there's another great thing about the making of that song was that was the only song we've ever actually live streamed from the studio while we were tracking it, and we had a lot of our fans watching us broadcast live while we were doing that song, and I don't even know if they knew necessarily at the time, what the song was about, but it was really cool to experience that with them. Something that, I think we're always going to remember.
And speaking of live, I got to imagine Collide, if you're performing it live, has got to go over really well.
Oh, yeah. That's our jam live, man. That's I think, probably hands down, everyone would agree, their favorite song to be playing live from the new album right now. That's a fun song, and I think eventually probably going to be a single from this album.
Nice. Another fantastic song on the album, another one of my favorites, is sort of that tasty duet, Roller Coaster, you did with Lindsay Stamey of Oh No Fiasco. How did that come about?
She was they're a band that we're friends with, and she's my favorite female rock vocalist, out there. And so as a fan, it was awesome to be able to, have her on our track. It was a song that really called for a female vocal, and I think just as a fan of her and her band, I was really geeked out to have her on the song. So it was really awesome, and it worked out. And she did the song, and that seems to be a favorite from a lot of people on the album. The bad news, that it'll be tough to replicate live.
Well, that's true. So a little more piano than we usually get from you on that song. And you guys are from Nashville, and everybody, I know you get asked the question all the time about Nashville and country and all that stuff, but you guys never had any of that country flavor at all or anything. But there's just a bit of nuance of that in this track with Lindsay's vocals, which is funny because she's so poppy in her regular stuff and her rock and pop stuff, but there's just a little bit of flavor of that lingering in there that I sort of heard, but which it made it sound really cool.
That's interesting. I mean, she's a Southern belle, and I'm certainly from the country myself, so maybe that's why.
So before we get out of here, just a couple of questions for fun. Because when you guys get thrown out onto tour, you never know who you're going to get sometimes. Everybody seems to think bands pick who their tour partners are, and it happens very rarely. So what's the strangest tour you've been a part of so far in your career?
Strangest tour? Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it sounds awful because they were label mates of ours, but Tantric was a weird band for us to be out with at the time. When Lollipop was out, especially, it just, I don't think the band's style of the music meshed well. I think it was ultimately because we were on the same label. And you're right, it was just kind of thrown together to put both of us on tour. But it's always been interesting with us that, we can tour with a band like that. We've played shows with bands like Hinder back in the day, and we've also toured with Good Charlotte. Those types of bands are certainly completely different. So that's one cool thing about our band is, I think our music kind of walks this fine line of leaning too far rock or leaning too far pop, to where we're able to, change set lists maybe accordingly, and, as far as whatever tour we're on, make it fit.
Right. So a little bit of the chameleonic sort of thing going on there without giving up who you are, obviously.
No, I was just say, there's obviously songs that are always going to have to be in the set. So, those songs we always play. But, yeah, it is interesting kind of making a set list just based on what tour you're on. And it's fun, actually. It makes the song not become stale live.
Right. So the pointless question of the week, besides music, family, and sleep, what's the one thing that steals the largest chunk of your brain matter?
Football and wrestling. I'm a huge wrestling nerd. I grew up on that. Ultimately, my dream job is to be a writer for the WWE. But I'm a huge football fan too. And you would never think either two of those when you see me and the size I am. But those again, like you said, other than my family, when we're not on tour, it's football and wrestling.
So college or pro ball?
Pro. I'm a big Jacksonville Jaguars fan, actually, interestingly enough. Being from Tennessee, they're division rivals, the Titans, and State, but I'm a Jaguars fan. So the draft was a big day for me a few days ago. They had a really solid draft, so
I was going to say.
High from that.
Were you happy with how the Jags made out?
I wasn't happy with taking Blake Bortles at number 3, but when we ended up surrounding him with, 2 elite, I think soon to be elite pro receivers in Robinson and Marquise Lee, I was very happy with Blake Bortles. Put a lot of power into their offense. We have a defensive-minded coach now, so I'm excited.
Fantastic. Nixon, framing Hanley out on the road right now in support of The Sum of Who We Are, which I got to say, that album title is really sort of poetic given what you guys sort of went through on the trip to get where you're at.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was in reference to, the amount of people that contributed through Kickstarter and then ourselves. This album is a collective effort, with all of us. But then, with the amount of time we put into this album, and it became more, collections of songs that about time periods, over the past 2.5 years that we were going through and stories from our lives, it really was, the sum of who we are as a band, the 5 of us, everything that we had been through. So it was interesting the way, it had a double meaning in that.
Absolutely. Nixon, again, thanks so much for taking the time. Enjoy the rest of your day off. Be safe on the road, and I hope to catch up with you guys when you make it to my neck of the woods.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot for having me.
Take it easy, brother.